My name is Deborah Littman, and I work for a big public service trade union in the UK, and I also am involved with a very large, broad-based community organization called London Citizens. And London Citizens, 10 years ago, it's a broad-based organization that involves faith organizations, trade unions, community organizations, and it had a retreat. And it brought people together, and it really asked the question, what is happening to our families? People said, there are people turning up at food banks that are working full-time. There are people that are not able to spend time with their children, exactly what Irma was saying. There were people that were saying our communities are empty, our churches are empty, our community halls are empty. What is going on? We have a tendency to think it's just about low-paid workers, that, you know, there they are, maybe through their fault or some, you know, maybe not theirs, but really it's only about them. And what we basically discovered was that the community pays for low pay. And you can see it in all of the different areas. So when we look at child poverty, the community is paying because children of low-paid parents are poor, with all of the implications that that has in terms of their long-term future, their health, their education, their ability to get on, to have families that are not in poverty themselves. We know that there's a direct relationship. This is the kind of work that Kai has done around health, the direct relationship between low income and health. Educational failure, absolutely. We've got lots of studies in the UK that say low income children simply do worse in school, and that the effects are very early. By age 3, you're already seeing a very marked difference in school success. High crime rate, children that are left unattended, you know, parents doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs, they're going to more likely get into difficulty. Inequality, the gap between the top and the bottom getting bigger and bigger, and that causing all kinds of community tensions. Low-income people spend all their money, right? They're not putting it in offshore accounts, you know, off in the Seychelles somewhere. They're putting it into what they have to spend day to day, and they tend to spend all their money, and they tend to spend it locally. So those small businesses that are doing all the bleating would actually really benefit from the vast majority of people in their community earning a living wage, okay? Because if you don't have enough, you're sure not going to go out and buy a pizza, or, you know, go down the road to a movie. So there really is a weakening of local economies when people are not earning the living wage. Lack of civil society is another one that we tend not to think about. When people are very stressed and busy and they've got all this work to do, they're not going to volunteer. They're not going to spend time at their kids' school. They're not going off to, you know, community centers or to take part in their faith communities. So our communities get hollowed out, and that makes them much less warm and supportive places to live. Higher tax burden, those of us that are better paid end up paying the cost of the benefits that have to, payments that have to go to low-income people, and crippling debt. Debt is a menace. It stands to reason. If the whole community pays for low pay, then the whole community benefits from the living wage. So the idea was to start to look at all of those potential allies. If you're talking education, then people involved in education are allies, people involved in health are allies, people involved in civil society are allies, people who are concerned about the crime rate are allies, and they may not know it yet. You may have to have those discussions with them about what it is, where's their self-interest in this, you know, where do they fit in? But it's important to make it a broad-based community campaign, okay? Not just to keep it narrow. It's not poverty, it's not about poor people, it's about what kind of community do we want to live in. So our campaign has been built always on bringing in as wide a range of actors as we can, building alliances in each workplace and each city, and campaigning around concrete achievable goals. And this has been also a kind of hallmark of the campaign. Next thing is holding politicians and employers to account. In the nicest possible way. We want to say, this is what we want from you. We don't always have Jamie McAvoys around, right? The ones that are willing to do this. We often have of politicians that are not willing to do this, and they have to have a little nudge and a bit of pressure and a little bit of, you know. So getting them to do it by, and I'll talk about a couple of examples, but getting them to do it, and then following up. So even if they say yes, we don't go away. It's because it's exactly true. It's not always that easy. There are complications. There are legal issues that have to be dealt with. There are problems around, you know, how you implement through a variety of contracts. So we sit down with them and say, let's, you know, go through that and work it out. So this is the Tate Modern. Okay, anyone ever been to London? Yeah, anyone's been to the Tate Modern? Okay, huge, huge, huge museum. It was a power plant, so it has what's called the turbine hall, a huge hall as an entryway. And do you want to just, yeah, one more. So it had an installation, an art installation. I love art. A crack in the floor. They paid £100,000 to put a crack in the floor of the turbine hall, and it was Dora Salcedo's installation called the Shibboleth, and it was meant to represent the division between rich and poor. Great. They didn't pay living wage to their catering staff or their cleaning staff. So we said, put your money where your art is and pay it. And so we had a carol, we couldn't get them to respond. We sent them letters, they didn't respond. So we had a carol concert outside the Tate on Christmas 2007. And we had lots of church choirs come down, they were doing singing, it was very nice. And then people dressed nicely walked into the turbine hall like tourists. And then we had an opera singer come up on the second balcony there, and she started to sing. And at that signal, everybody formed up, hands linked over the crack. And of course we unfurled the banners and handed out leaflets and made sure the press was there and what have you. And and the next day we got a call from the Tate saying, let's have a meeting. And all of the catering and cleaning staff are now paid a living wage. So